Good morning, Ultimate Hustlers and Digital Empire Builders. It is that time for the Cortez Hustle Show, and today we got another wonder-filled show lined up for you today. We got a war veteran on the show today. It's going to teach you how to be an overcomer, how to lay out and map out a game plan for your steps to success in business and life and your relationships. Is going to be freaking amazing. J.R. Spears has decided to give up his time this morning, so I can't wait to have this conversation. But in the meantime, I need you to do me a huge favor. Come in the chat where you're from. Drop the name of your business and or your brand and smash that show button, ladies and gentlemen. And let's kick it this morning.
Yo, what's up, Ultimate Hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally or I've learned from or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, coming to you live and direct from Thornton Online Marketing Studios right here in St. Louis, Missouri, where we help small local businesses fill their calendars without paid advertising. That's right. If you're a service-based business and you're struggling to keep your calendar full, then I need you to text local biz to 314-730-3999. Again, if you text local biz to 314-730-3999, that will allow you to book a free strategy session where we'll help determine whether or not we can help you or not, ladies and gentlemen. So we're super excited. Today, we've got a war veteran to come hang out with us today, very successful entrepreneur, but also served our country almost to the extent of losing his life. He's going to tell us all about that today. So Mr. J.R. Spear will be hanging out with us. But before we bring him on, a couple quick announcements. You guys know it's Wednesday. So what does that mean? A new episode of the Black Biz Success Show drops on Roku today, and I am super excited. So if you have a Roku player on your device, on your TV, then I need you to download the Unheard TV channel on your Roku device. And every Wednesday, for the next 3 Wednesdays, we've got a new episode of the Black Biz Success Show where we're talking about the things that Black entrepreneurs need to do to grow and scale their businesses. And we also give them access to tons of resources and things of that nature. So make sure you guys go check that out. Also, do not forget, if you're struggling to be consistent on social media, ladies and gentlemen, the social media consistency challenge is still in full effect. All you got to do is text Daily Hustle to 314-730-3999. And guess what? Every day for 21 days straight. Why 21 days? Because it takes 21 days to create a habit. Every day, I'm going to send you an infographic to post on your social. I'm going to give you the captions and the hashtags that go with that infographic. And I'm going to give you access to a short video training on how to use that content. You do that for 21 days straight, man. You will be more consistent on your social. But more importantly, you'll learn how to think like a content creator. And that's how you be consistent on social media. So, ladies and gentlemen, this brother sent me his bio, and I'm connected to him in one of his Facebook groups. And I just kind of dig the way he operates, right? And kind of learn some things from the way he does his group. So I'm doing some of those things in my group, so I'm having some success. So we got a chance to connect, and I asked him to be on the show, and he said, sure. Then he sent me his bio, and he said, right in the opening lines of his bio, said, from being blown up in Iraq to teaching entrepreneurs how to be successful. I said, wait, what? So I knew I had to get this guy on and hear his story. So I need you guys to do me a huge, huge favor. While I introduce to some of you guys and present to others, Mr. J.R. Spears. Give him our Cortez Hustle Show. Welcome, J.R. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And that's some intro you got on your show. I love that. I've never seen anyone do it quite at that level. I love the energy that you bring early in the morning, and it's awesome. Definitely set the tone high.
Thank you so much, man. And I'm excited to have you. And I can't wait to get all the way up in your backstory, brother, because it is flat out amazing. But we start every episode of the Cortez Hustle Show, JR, with a quote of the day. And it's basically, I'm just going to share a quote. Usually I'm up in the morning and I have something motivational playing in my ear. And there's always something from these guys that literally stabs me in the gut. And today is no other. So I'm going to share a quote. If you have a favorite quote of your own, then I'm going to ask you to share yours as well. And then we'll kind of banter back and forth. But today's quote is from C.S. Lewis. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for extraordinary destiny. My friend, that hit me like a ton of bricks, because we often tend to look at hardships in a negative light. But when you understand that, you'll realize that even when it's storming outside, the sun is still shining. And if you can keep that perspective, knowing that this hardship is going to shape you into something great, it doesn't make it less painful to go through the hardships, but at least you have something to hang your hat on. So do you have a favorite quote that you like to share or live by, or do you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, well, I can do both. So kind of a little bit about that quote itself is something that I personally like to reflect on daily, because if it's not for the trials and tribulations and the hardships that we go through in life, we'll never be able to get ahead. So like even to where I'm at today, whenever I go through a hard time in my life and my business and my family, whatever it may be right now, it's familiar to me because of the hard times that I went through in the past. Now, during that moment, it's always difficult. So during that moment, I always want to give up. I want to, I'm hating life. I'm like, man, this really sucks. How am I going to get through it? And you just think that there's no end, but there's always the end and the outcome to it. And a good example is I have a client that she actually lives in St. Louis as well. And she went through a really hard time a couple of weeks ago. And when she's getting on the phone with me, I'm trying to have empathy for her. And I'm talking to her and I'm like chuckling and laughing to her on the phone. She's like, why are you laughing? She's like crying. And I said, because I've gone through the same thing before. I've gone through exactly what you're going through. I know exactly what it looks like. I know what it feels like, and you're going to pull through. And not even a week later, as I was able to talk her through the steps, she was able to walk out there with confidence and be able to stand her ground and be able to push through. And then she calls me. I was like, man, I'm so glad we had that conversation, because I was able to get through this. But if I didn't go through those hard times, I couldn't use it to inspire and to help others push through the trials and the hardships that they go through. So I love that quote and what they go through. Something that I say all the time to my clients is actually a quote that I made and came through a lot of struggles, but action creates momentum that leads to success. So action creates momentum that leads to success. And I have that on my website. It's something I say pretty much daily. And it's a reminder for me to knowing that you got to show up and do the things, because when you show up, take action every single day, that's going to lead to the momentum, which is going to lead to success in your business, because you're not going to get success if you don't do it. So many times as entrepreneurs, people want to become an entrepreneur because they want the freedom to be able to make their own choices, to do whatever they want to do, to work whenever they want to work. And hopefully they get the income that they want to do, but they don't realize that they got to treat it like a business. A lot of times entrepreneurs work harder when they're working for someone else than when they do for their own self. And I love what you said before we got on the show, is like, you do the show early in the morning because it forces you to get up and do the things to be able to take action throughout the day. And that's so true. You got to do the things in the morning and do the things that's going to help set the tone for the rest of your day. So that way you create that momentum, which leads to that success for the rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of your month, and your entire business. So action creates momentum that leads to your success is a quote that I like to live by and remind myself daily.
Love it, love it, love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is The quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, again, brought to you by Thornton Online Marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, we help small service-based businesses fill their calendar without paid advertisement. We don't have anything against paid ads, but most of us don't have advertising budget. So what are you going to do to get customers? Let us help you with that. We got a free trial. All you got to do is text local biz to 314-730-3999. JR, my friend, I ask everybody who come on the Cortez Hustle Show the same question, and I'm not going to discriminate. I'm going to ask you too, brother. And the question is this: who the heck are you?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I love that question because first off, I'm a Christian, so that's always who I am. So I always say I'm a son, and God is my father, and I lead to the cross of Jesus Christ. So that's who I am as a person. I'm a father. I'm a husband. So I have 3 children, 6, 4, and an 18-month-old girl. So that's me itself. But if you want to kind of know a little bit about my backstory, which I'll just kind of take you on that journey if you want to, is I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and grew up in the South County area. And just those listening, I'm sure you got a lot of St. Louis people listening. I'll just break the ice right there. I went to Lindbergh High School. That's where I graduated from the area. So
what is that with St. Louis is like? I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, but I was raised here. But everybody got to know what high school you went to.
Because they prejudge you based off your high school. They'll immediately put like discriminate, or they immediately want to prejudge and say who you are, where you're from, where your family status is. Gotcha. And it's just one of those things like, oh, you went to that school, you went to Marquette, or you went to Fox, so you one of those people. Yeah, so everyone in St. Louis, they always want to say where you want to, and they like to level up. So it's like for the sports, it's like, okay, who has the best sports team, who has the best type of area. So, but yeah, I grew up in the South County area, and I was very fortunate growing up that I grew up in a single home with my mother and 4 sisters. So I was the only boy in the household, and we all grew up in the martial arts school. So my mom always owned a martial arts school, a program, fitness business, and we all kind of took play and did our role to really help out the family to build this business. And it really shaped me to who I am today, because from a very young age, I was exposed to entrepreneurship, and I've been teaching in front of small and large crowds from probably 11 or 12 years old, where I'm taking over an entire room of adults from a young age, leading them in self-defense, talking about character development to kids and different things like that. So from a young age, since the day I was born until I left for the military right out of high school, everyone called me like Mr. Karate Kid. I was always known as Karate Kid. And I love that title. And part of entrepreneurship in life itself is understanding your purpose, but also knowing your identity. And in life, you're going to go through multiple shifts in your identity. And almost like with you had one job and identity from one thing, and then now you're building a new thing with your marketing business, and people are seeing you completely different.
That's right.
For me, that was my identity growing up. And so from a young age at 12 years old, I'm teaching, I'm leading and things like that. And even in high school, I actually had the opportunity to travel around to many different high schools in the area. And I would take over a whole class for the days, whether it be a business class or it be a health class. And I'm teaching about character development, date rapes, self-defense, and different things like that. And I had a blast. I didn't know at the time growing up, I thought everyone did martial arts. I thought that was the normal life. I didn't know that not everyone did it. And to me, it was just second nature. So my mom always told me, it was like, JR never knew a stranger. I never had a problem standing in front of a crowd, talking, leading, whatever it may be. And it definitely helped me to where I'm at today. So that was kind of like my upbringing, and kind of, even though I felt like everyone would think I would have it together, growing up in a broken home with, one parent in the house and things like that, I didn't really know what I was going to do in my life. So I didn't want to go to school. I hated high school and grade school growing up. I didn't want to have an education. And I was like, you know what? I need to do something different. I need to get out of the bad crowd that I was hanging around for a while. And my grandma at the time, it's actually a funny story to take you through this, but I ended up skipping school one day. And because I had a lot of tickets and trouble with the law that I got into and needed to pay back. I had a bond that got me out when that I had to pull me out when I was, in the holding cell up at Clayton jail, and just needed to find a way to get out. I got fired from my job. I lost my car and just was in a lot of trouble. I was going down the wrong path later on in high school. And so my grandma came over and to my house one morning, and I asked her, I said, hey, can you take me to a couple of these pawn shops? I was going to pawn off some of my stuff, just trying to get some extra cash. Didn't have any money, but I had to do something to do it. So she, in her little, crafty way said yeah, and then put me in the car. And we're driving down Lindbergh Boulevard in South County, and she makes a turn right by the Best Buy. Well, behind the Best Buy on Lindbergh, there was a recruiter station. She pulls in there, and I was like, "Hey, where are you at?" The pawn shop's like down the street. And she goes, "No, you're not getting out of this car. You're walking in there. You're not coming out and out back to the car until you sign up for one of the branches of the military." And I had no like up until that day, I had no like desire to sign up for the military or anything like that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I just knew I didn't want to go to college. I just was gonna take some odd end jobs. Maybe I was gonna teach martial arts. I don't know what I was gonna do. So I ended up that moment with my grandmother pretty much changed the entire outcome of my life, because I walked in there. I knew I would never go Army or Air Force, and just because my uncle was a Marine, my grandfather was retired Navy, and even though my dad was in the Army, he never really talked about it much growing up. I was also really close to my grandfather and my uncle. So, but I knew I didn't want to go Marine at the time because they worked too hard. So I was like, I don't want to be a grunt. I don't want to go out there and, hustle and work that hard. And I thought being in the Navy would be easy, just float out on the ship and have a good time. So I ended up going in the Navy. And I'll tell you, God has a really big sense of humor, because I signed up. That was probably the end of my junior year. I had a year gap. That my whole life completely changed between my junior and senior year. I rededicated my life to Christ, and definitely was leading down a different course on my path at that time. But went in the boot camp and stuff like that as a completely different job in the Navy. And I found out about this job as being an RP. Well, an RP stands for Religious Program Specialist, and ultimately I was a security for the chaplain. And so chaplains are non-combatants where they can't even carry a weapon. So they have the RPs that is pretty much the weapon for the chaplain. So during a time of war, they are by our sides. We're the one protecting them and kind of being the security for them. So, but here's the sense of humor that God had. I didn't want to go Marine. I signed up for the Navy, and being an RP, I spent my whole entire time with the grunt unit in the Marine Corps. So even though I didn't want to go,
you can't get away from the work, JR. You got to put in the work. I love that.
So it was like, hey, you know what? You want to go to the Marines, and I'll still get you there. And I'll tell you, that was the best thing for me. I loved it. Some of my closest friends that I had today are Marines, and still in touch with. The bonding and the camaraderie that you get with the Marine Corps, you don't get in any other branch of the service. And it definitely was an amazing experience, changed my life. But I also went through a lot of hard times in the military. So when I went in right out of boot camp, I had to go to like a modified Marine combat training, learning how to play Marine, learning how to shoot weapons and do all that fun stuff. And went to Quantico, Virginia, which was my first duty station. I was the battalion RP for officer candidates. So Marines that was going through to be officers in the Marine Corps. And then from there, I was supposed to be there for 3 or 4 years. And then I got called up, 2 years early, and was like, hey, we need an RP to head over to Iraq. And we need you to leave I think it was like 30 or 60 days. I was like,
let me stop you right there before we go down that road, because that's another interesting story. But I want to ask you this, and I always do this when I have one of my white brothers on with me. We don't hear often this side of the story. When we hear single parent household, that's usually something that is only reserved for the Black community. It's like, Black people live in single parent households 70% of the time or whatever. Talk about the parallels between your single parent upbringing, and because we tend to think that that's only reserved for a certain group of people, but you had a single mom, she worked her tail off in a business and still instilled in you some character traits that brought you back on the rails, even though you were trying to derail, right? Those things that she instilled in you brought you back. But how tough was that growing up with a single parent? And was that still in your life, or was he not, or how did that impact your life, seeing how hard your mom worked to just basically create a life for you on her own?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I look back on those times and the memories and stuff. And to me, I didn't know anything different. Like, I didn't know like the hard times they're going through. My mom was always really good at hiding things. Like, I didn't know that we grew up poor. Like I can't say we like, I would consider us middle class, doing well, because I did martial arts. I traveled all over the country competing and fighting in tournaments and competitions and stuff. I played football for from 7 years old all the way up to sophomore year of high school. I played ice hockey for about 5 years, which I absolutely loved. When my sisters were always involved in something, my grandparents were always present. My dad was still around, but I didn't see him every day. It was more of like an every other weekend type thing. And we were close, but I would say when I got older and left the military and out of the house, we got much, much closer. But my mom was always like, she was really good at masking stuff growing up. And she always found a way to make something happen. At Christmas time, we always had like the best stuff. Like you would, like the living room be filled. I'm like, and back, I'm like, Mom, why did you do that? I didn't realize you struggled putting food on the table. I didn't realize you struggled doing all these different things, but she always made sure that we had the best that we could growing up. And it wasn't until I got older, realized it, and started seeing everything that she went through and sacrificed for us to make sure that we had a good living. So, I will say, like, I think I was very blinded by a lot of it because I was involved in school activities. I was, doing a bunch of things. But I didn't really see the struggle of growing up in a single household. I mean, me and my sisters are all pretty close, and we all just kind of did things. I mean, if I wanted to go hang out with friends, I wouldn't did it. But I also never had a hand-me-out either. I started working my first job when I was 15 years old, and and making my own money, paying for my own things, buying my own clothes, bought my own car with cash when I was 15. It was a 1988 Chevy Cavalier Z24. Love that car. Got me but it was she never just like handed it out to me, and I think I knew what hard work was from the beginning because she didn't have $20 to give us, and to me, I just like, okay, well, she didn't have it, whatever. I'm gonna go find it and make it happen. So I always learned from a very young age. Gosh, even in grade school, I remember I used to go to the Dollar General that was right next to our martial arts school. One of our big martial arts schools that we had was in Arnold, Missouri at the time, and there was a Dollar General right next to it. And I used to go there after classes, and I'd go get a pack of Bubblicious bubble gum. There was like 6 packs in there, and then I would go to school and I would sell each pack for $1. Well, there's 6 packs. I'm selling 6 of them. I'm profiting $5 because it cost me $1 for that pack. And I would do that over and over again. And that's how I made money. So I did that type of stuff, always find some way to make money or do things. And, shoveling, snow in the wintertime and cutting grass all the time. I always did something to get what I wanted. So I never had a hand-me-out for it. But I also never really knew that we were in the poverty level. I probably didn't even know what poverty was at a young age. Just she did everything she could to make sure things happened.
That's amazing. My man Mark says that's the baby boomer secret, right? They like my mom was the same way. It's like sometimes you just don't know. And you talking hockey, you talking martial arts. Those are some expensive sports. Like I know what hockey gear costs. Like that's not easy to. And then especially if you're in travel tournaments, like you were traveling all over the country. So great sacrifices. Big ups to mom and grandma for not letting my man JR stay off the tracks too long and getting them back on and basically nudging them into the military. So real quick, Mark, I'm sorry, JR, we get into my favorite segment of the show, which is called 1 Minute Motivation. This is where I'm going to play a short motivational clip, usually 30 to 60 seconds or so, and I'm going to ask you to give me your takeaway. So let me set this up. I'm a huge proponent of personal growth and self-development. And what I try to explain to people all the time, and I'm sure you do this as well, that personal growth and self-development is not only happening when I'm reading Think and Grow Rich or The Magic of Thinking Big, right? People tend to think if I'm doing something positive, that's personal growth and self-development, when in reality, everything that you consume contributes to your personal growth and self-development, whether it's positive or negative. So you have to be intentional. So that's why I start the show, or I include this in every episode. So I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to actually give your takeaways. Those of you who are watching us live, feel free to comment your takeaway as well. So as it's finished processing, that's a little slow this morning, we're going to get into 1 Minute Motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
I always told you this since day one. Can't nobody treat you the way you're being treated without your permission. Understand that. I know it's easier said than done. I know maybe you're going through hard times. I know you're going through tragedy. I know you may be dealing with a lot of things and you're vulnerable. But listen, at the end of the day, you have to stop accepting disrespect. People have to know that If somebody walks out of your life, they're not going to find you in the same place that they left you. Some of us, we allow people to walk out our life, we allow people to do us any type of way, and we sit there and we wait.
There are people who can walk away from you, and hear me when I tell you this. When people can walk away from you, let them walk. When people can walk away from you, let them walk.
While they moved on with their life, we sit here and we wait for them to show back up. We sit here and we wait for them to give us forgiveness. We sit here and we wait for them to give us apologies. We sit here and we waiting for closure. Let me tell you something about closure, man. The only closure that you need is realize that you deserve better. The only closure that you need is understanding that your life holds better for your life.
Ooh-wee. I don't know about you, JR, but that moves my spirit today. So I love just listening to that stuff. That's kind of how I get my day going. But the reason I love it so much when I have a guest on the show is because we all just listen to the same clip. But based on where we are in life, we all heard something very different. So what did you hear, my friend?
Yeah. So first off, two different things. And one is, I'm going to take it from an entrepreneur mind or standpoint as well. To be in that, being an entrepreneur, you got to have certain level of empathy for people and to be able to connect and different things like that. But one thing I try to tell all of my clients is you have to learn to remove the emotion when it comes to relationships with certain clients, because you have to know what you're going to allow in and what you're going to be able to put out with different people. Because you're going to have people that you thought, even clients that you thought was like one way or another with you, that you were helping them and different things like that, but they come back and they hurt you in some way. And that's okay. You just need to learn to let go of it, bottle up, move on. Because if you sit there and hold on to it, it's going to affect the way that you show up for your business and also for the people that you're serving. So, so, I mean, you have the choice to let it affect you or to not affect you. But the emotion is a huge thing, because we can easily allow the things from day-to-day life and what people say affect the way that we feel, which is also going to affect the way that we show up every single day. And you have to learn to separate that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. My man Mark says, hey, when people walk out of your life, it will create changes as we become different. James, I appreciate this comment, man. He said, I absolutely needed to hear that today. Thank you for sharing, Cortez. That's why we do it, brother, because we never know, what people are going through. You train people how to treat you, right? And this is in business, sometimes taking on crappy clients. You're training them how to treat you and how to respond. And if, I had this issue with being available 24/7. Well, if I answer the phone every time someone called me after hours, then they're going to continue to call me after hours, which was damaging my relationship with my wife. So not only in your personal life, but in your business life, remember that you train people how to treat you. Also, peer pressure is a two-sided coin. I didn't understand this when I was growing up, Mark, and I'm sure your parents did the same thing. When your parents would tell you not to hang out with them, hang out with these guys over here. They knew that peer pressure was a two-sided coin. If you're off the rails or heading off the rails and you started hanging out with the right people, then they're going to pull you back, right? One thing I know about successful people, they're not going to let you stay in a state of being unsuccessful around them. Either you're going to start to aspire to do something, or you're going to have to get away from around them. Period. That's what I know about successful people. So when I was coming up, I was like, why is my mom trying to force me to hang out with this particular group of kids? Because she knows that peer pressure is a two-sided coin. They're going to pressure me to level up, just like if I'm hanging with the wrong kids, they're going to pressure me to level down. And the same thing is happening today in our adult lives, ladies and gentlemen. Be around people that are going to challenge you to be better versus those who are going to accept you wallowing in misery, staying in a level of mediocrity or even below, right? So that's what I heard, man. Peer pressure is a two-sided coin, and you got to train people how to treat you in your business as well as in your personal life. And those that don't want a part of you, then that's fine. There's somebody who's meant to be in your life to help you get to the next level, right? Every level that you're going to whether it's business, personal relationships, always involves people, right? So keep that in mind. That is 1 Minute Motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by jrspear.com. Brother has some amazing systems that can help you level up in your life, especially in your business. So make sure you check out the website, jrspear.com. So, JR, my friend, we got through your young life, right? Kind of what led you into the military. Let's talk before we get into you becoming a full-fledged entrepreneur, because clearly you've always been an entrepreneur, right? But then you went and served time in the military. Thank you for your service as well. But talk about that experience that you had where nearly getting blown up or getting blown up, and how that shaped your life, and how you saw that event and the time. And then now, as looking back at that event, what lessons are you extracting from that to help you move throughout your life now?
Yeah, before I get into that, and it's kind of cool, and like how you said this call that leads us, because the day that we put our feet on the yellow footprints in boot camp, and we start going through the different motions and doing things, we hate it. Like, it sucks. It's like, man, I really don't want to listen to what my DI is saying. I really don't want to do the training that we're doing. We're going out in the field and we're practicing for combat. We're practicing like being out in the rifle range, being out there in the field, sitting there at dark 30, waiting for 2 or 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the night just to step off for a 12 or 20-mile hike with a 100-pound pack, whatever it may be. And we hate that train. We hate the times where we get off the rifle range and we got to spend the next hour cleaning our rifle and always making sure that the details are being done. We hated the fact that we had to, have field day of our barracks room every single Friday. Come in, white glove, they're lifting up things and they're checking different stuff. We hated it. But during the moment, talking about the struggles and the things that we do, it leads us to the things that we need to respond with later, which takes me into the next segment of my life that pretty much changed it. And at that moment, looking back, I'm like, man, I disliked and I grunted and I complained and all these different things. Like, man, I really don't want to get up. I really don't want to pack my sack. I really don't want to do all these different things for this training. But all that train, all the PT, all the exercise, all the field ops, all the stuff that we did out in the field led us for one specific day. And until you hit that moment, you're never going to really know what happened. So on February 7th, 2007, I'm in the hot desert of Iraq, and woke up super early. I mean, first off, you have to understand, we were out, me and the chaplain, we did a mission out in Aramati the night before, and where we were originally based out of was Barwana. And Aramati, we had to fly in because some Marines got injured or killed, and we got back probably really, like, it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. I got about 3 or 4 hours of sleep, got up really early, and was getting ready to go meet the chaplain for the next mission that we had for that day. I got up and I went to go look for the chaplain. He wasn't where we were supposed to be. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Where is he at? Well, he ended up going. Well, first off, you have to understand that the chaplain is not supposed to go anywhere without me, because, he's putting himself in danger, but also me at risk as well. So he went out with our CO and our sergeant major out to patrol the city and, doing whatever they want to do to connect with the locals and things like that. And, I, to be really honest, it really pissed me off. I was really angry. I was like, where the heck is he? He's not supposed to go anywhere. He wasn't supposed to leave and do anything, but he wanted to go do his own thing. And it definitely caused a lot of issues. So the day's already starting out bad for me. Yeah. And then I don't know if anyone ever listening to this ever woke up and was like, man, something just feels really off. And I was getting this pit in my stomach. It was actually a really nice day. I mean, it was sunny out, the wind was blowing, and there was no complaints when it came to weather-wise or anything like that. But just something felt really off. So I ended up going to find comm and to radio around to find out where the chaplain was at, find a rendezvous point where we could meet up and connect with and stuff. So there was a walking checkpoint down by the Euphrates River. And anyone that reads the Bible and knows a little bit of that history, well, the Euphrates River is where Father Abraham walked up and down close to where the Tigris River was. And that's where we had a walking checkpoint. So I found our motor T that was going to take some supply down to our Marines down there at the checkpoint. So I got in a Humvee and I drove down there. And the whole time while I'm driving, and every time I got in a Humvee, I always make sure I memorized and prayed over Psalm 91 over me. Well, Psalm 91, there's a big piece of it saying 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. And that verse, I memorized the whole thing and would pray it all the time. And just every time, I mean, when you're in Iraq, the scary thing is it's not like the old wars or Vietnam or anything like that, where you're fighting people face to face in combat. Yes, there are situations where it happens, but you're fighting a ghost. These people are putting up IDs. They got snipers. They got all these different things. So you never see and know what's actually going to happen. And getting a Humvee behind the wheel and driving on the main roads was always terrifying, because you just never knew when you're going to hit that ID and then your truck was going to go. So every time I got behind that wheel of the Humvee and I'm driving, it was just always a scary moment. But I tried not to live my life in fear. I try always lean on God for that support and safety, and just knowing that we can't live our life in fear, but in power, love, and sound mind. And then also believing in God's word for Psalm 91 over my life. And so we got down there to the walking checkpoint. I got down there early, saw the chaplain, CO, and sergeant major walking down. And they got there a little bit later than I did. And the walking checkpoint, just so you guys know, is we searched everyone that walked in and out of the city. Like we have driving checkpoints up on the road, but we also had walking checkpoints, and the whole city was burned up, so no one can come in or out without us knowing who was there and checking them or whatnot. So we're at this walking checkpoint, and I'm standing in the center of the area with another Marine. His name was David Emery at the time, and where you could see people walking in and out of the walkway. So like when people were coming into the city, I would see them walking out. You make contact with them and stuff like that. And I was just, being an RP is always about providing that moral support. We're the smiling face for the Marines during the difficult times, and just making sure that we're there for the moral support, helping them, encouraging them, and things like that. So even with the locals, I do what I can to be there. It's like, hey, yeah, today sucks, but let's try to make the best of it. And I'm having communication with them and talking with them and stuff like that. And at this time, while I'm standing in that intersection, I couldn't see the chaplain. There's like this wall separating the walking area, and then there's a big grass area, and then there's like a building that we could go up on top and have an overwatch to kind of see a little bit further and a long line of people coming in. So the chaplain was around in the grass area behind some Husco barricades where talking to another Marine and stuff like that. And I'm standing in the walkway, probably a good solid 30 to 45 minutes or whatnot. And just something in my gut just saying, hey, you need to go check on the chaplain. I couldn't see him. He was around the corner. I knew where he was. And I wasn't listening. I was like, he's fine. He's over there. He's protected. He's good. So I stay there with Emery. And I'm just kind of chatting. But all of a sudden, I'm like feeling in my gut, and it's like, hey, go check on the chaplain. Almost like this audible voice almost telling me. And I just wasn't listening. I was like, oh, I'm good. And then I started feeling nauseous, and like to the point of where I wanted to throw up. It was like, I never had this feeling in my entire life, but it was like, hey, go check on the chaplain. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to throw up. Hey, I need to move. I need to go. I'm not feeling well. I was starting feeling flush. Like I started like sweating and stuff. And I don't know what the heck was going on with me, but I'm so glad that happened to me, because if I wouldn't have moved, I wouldn't even be here today. So when that happened, I ended up walking, and I'm walking. I passed by the opening where people were walking in, and I'm going around this turn. My sergeant major ended up walking right by me. We greet him. So as senior enlisted, we always greet our senior enlisted. And I was like, hey, good morning, Sergeant Major. He looks down on me. He had this deep voice, and it was always like one that you never forget. And he's like, RP, just like this really deep, solid voice. And I didn't realize when he did that at that moment that was be the last time I ever heard him talk. And it was when we passed by, and he greeted me. He ended up going right in the opening where David Emery was. And as I made that turn and walked by that walking checkpoint, a guy was coming through, lifted his arms, and he was strapped with C4, blew himself up, and it killed 3 of our own. My sergeant major ended up dying in the blast, which he was standing right where I was at. David Emery, who I was standing next to, lost both of his legs. Jennifer Purcell, she was further away. She ended up dying. Our interpreter, Jimmy, I don't know where he was standing, but he ended up dying. And then I was thrown. So I was walking, and I was thrown, probably left unconscious for a little while. Straight tunnel vision. Even today, as I'm talking to you, like and this is over 15 years ago, but as I'm talking to you, like I still hear an echo of my voice as I speak on my right side. I still struggle with raising my right arm, but I'm here, and definitely and truly blessed for that. But at that, when all that happened, I saw the chaplain on the ground, and he's trying to crawl, and saw another Marine. I can't remember if it was my first sergeant or my gunny, and he's just waving. I couldn't hear him, but I could see straight tunnel vision just right in front of me. And there's a shelter. So we didn't know it was a suicide bombing. We thought it was mortars coming in. So I just saw the chaplain trying to crawl. I could barely move. I didn't even know if I was injured or not. I just saw the chaplain, and I responded and grabbed the back of his flak, and I dragged him on the ground to get underneath that shelter. It was probably a solid 25 to 50 meters to get underneath there and to get over safety. And then I just made sure that the area was cleared, and we were covered before we did anything else. And I'll tell you, it was at that moment, it sucked. when we talk about trials and tribulations, we don't know when we're going through something on how did it actually affect us. And even though I went through that difficult time, I am truly honored and blessed to be able to share the story. And it took me over 10 years to be able to even share even pieces of the story. And I had a friend of mine that I met through a mastermind program, and he or me, we were doing like a Bible study with another group of men, and he was like, Jerry, you need to tell your story more. You need to share with other people. And I was like, who the heck wants to hear this story about this and what it does? And I'll tell you, the reason why I never shared it, first off, I didn't feel worthy enough. But when I first came back from Iraq, I got back. That happened February 7th, 2007. I got back from Iraq May 31st, 2007, and I was out in July 10th, 2007. I barely had a month of separation from when I got back from war to becoming a civilian and not wearing a uniform, and my identity completely shifting to stepping feet at Bible school, which is up in Florissant. So I went to St. Louis College for a semester up there. So I didn't really have a break. But when I was sitting at lunchtime with during at the Bible school, there was another Marine there that just got back from Fallujah, and we were talking like we're sitting in the middle of the sandbox, just sharing war stories and having a good conversation for probably over 2 hours. And for us, we talked about it like it's normal life, and we didn't. You talking about IEDs, you're talking about mortars, you're talking about like this blast right here, and hopefully people have a strong stomach. But I actually helped pick up the body parts. I carried around the guy's head that actually blew himself up. I picked up the arms and the torso and the bodies of of all the people that got injured and killed. I lived and smelled the blood and everything that happened, and the torso. Even my chaplain had body parts blown up all on top of him, and I had a speck of blood no bigger than a pin drop on the back of my flak. That's it. That's all I had on me. So I was by angels that day. But we're sitting at this lunch table and we're sitting there talking and stuff, and both of us are oblivious about what's going on because we're just totally into sharing war stories and things like that. And we stop and we take a breath and we look around, and there's probably like 20 other people around us, and we didn't even know. We were just completely in conversation, and they're like completely jaw dropped in tears. And at that moment, I realized that I am not in the military anymore, and civilians can't relate to these type of stories. They can't relate to them, and they shouldn't. And it's trauma, it's different things. And it really was an eye-awakening moment for me. And it was at that moment of that decision where I realized that I didn't want to share it anymore. I didn't want to tell any story. I didn't want to talk about it. And that's why it took about over 10 years for me to be able to share it. But when I was encouraged by this other individual to do so, I've been on fire going around. I've been on podcasts weekly with different people. I've been standing on stages, leading workshops and doing so and sharing the story. And even if it's not for the other people, it's therapeutic for me because I fight and with my own demons from everything that happened. And it's been amazing. But from the entrepreneur standpoint, if it's okay for me to kind of jump into this.
Because I want to know how it's, because to me, it seems like picking up the pieces and then moving forward. Like you said, you were less than 60 days out of this trauma, and now you're into civilian world where no one could relate or understand how that could have possibly affected you and how it is still affecting you to this day. But you picked up the pieces and found a life and a lane for yourself. And now as an entrepreneur, you're developing programs to help other people win. And I'm sure that looking back and extracting lessons from this experience is helping you on your entrepreneurial journey, especially when you said all of that prep that you hated to do is what saved your life and saved the life of your chaplain and helped you to drag him 50 to 100 meters, 25 to 50 meters when you probably, if under normal circumstances, wouldn't have been strong enough or emotionally stable enough to do that. But that training had kicked in that you so hated, but it kicked in, and now you're on autopilot doing what you had to do to survive that situation. So how does that move you through to help you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces, and I'm probably going to be a little bit all over the place, but I'm going to connect them for you guys. So one thing for my own personal journey that helped me live through, and honestly, if I didn't have faith in my relationship with Christ, if I didn't have purpose of where I'm going and what I'm doing, I wouldn't be able to stand here and be able to function with what I'm doing. I mean, gosh, a Marine that I served with that was in that same blast as I was. And you would think that he had it all together. He just took his own life this past December. And,
Mhm.
you know, he's not the only one. So it's not easy to be able to do so. And that's why I'm saying, for me personally, if I didn't have faith, if I didn't have a family, if I didn't have purpose in life for what I'm doing, I wouldn't be able to function or be able to conduct my life or the style, the life that I have today, if it wasn't for that. So it's a really important in business that you understand what your purpose is, what's driving you, what's making you to get up every single day to do what you do. Because if you don't, eventually you're going to get burnt out, tired, and wore down, and then you're going to hate doing what you're doing. You got to have
And
that
it's
purpose.
got to be bigger than money too, by the way.
Oh,
It's got to be
100%.
bigger than
Money's
money.
gotta come and go. Money. I
Yeah.
mean, money. I mean, I always say, like, people say that money can't buy happiness. Yes, that's true. Money can't necessarily buy happiness, but money can buy opportunities to be able to serve and impact the world in many different ways. So
Yeah.
I love money for that aspect from it, but money will come and go, and you have to have a bigger purpose and why for it. And for me, it's always
Yeah.
been my family. My first mission is my wife and my kids, and that's what I strive to do every single day. So that's the first thing that from me, from functioning on a standpoint, is understanding my purpose for that. But
Yeah.
going back to like that day in Iraq and getting blown up and trying to piece all these things together, and from an entrepreneur standpoint. And it took me many, many years to really reflect on this, because I think about this daily. Talking about demons,
Mhm.
like, I think about that day and getting blown up every single day. Still those smells,
Yeah.
still the things that I saw, it still haunts me, and things I see of every single day. I mean, I'm reminded by every time I lift my arm and I feel the pain of where that came from, or when I'm talking to people like you and I'm hearing the echo of my voice, why that's even there. So the demons and everything I still struggle with all the time. And I can either, you know, sit back and hide, ducking like a coward and saying, hey, you know what, life sucks. Or I can buckle down and be like, you know what, I'm blessed that I'm here and I have an opportunity to make an impact, to help other people and to serve. And
Mhm.
that's what I do. So you got to know that purpose. You got to know where you're going. But all that training that you do, and the reason why I said that in the beginning, it led us to that day. So when I look back on that day, I would not have been able to respond the way that I did, to grab the chaplain, be in the physical shape, be able to do the things that it took during that
Mhm.
ambush to be able to pull him where he goes. But not just that. When I look back at that day, you had the comm that reached out to medevacs, to healers that came in to be able to pull the people that were injured out. You had the corpsmen that actually went to the injured and the people to be able to do what they had to do, and they responded without thinking. We had all the other grunts that went out there to patrol the city to make sure that there was no other danger. Everyone knew their place and their time, and they responded without thinking. The
Mhm.
things that we do in
Mhm.
business, we have to do the hard things, the things that suck every single day, to build that muscle memory so that we learn how to do it and how to respond without thinking. That's
Yeah.
what people don't realize. They immediately want to say, hey, I connected with someone, they need to be a client, and they want to start making money, but they don't go through the steps and process that builds that muscle to get them to where they need to go. Even on social media, you got to build a social media and the presence and put in the reps for people to trust you, to be able to hear and believe your message and the problems that you solve. If you don't put in
Yeah.
that time, you don't put in the reps, you're not going to be able to respond when you do it. Just like if you get on a sales call and you get an objection or something, someone asks you something, you had a client that quit, you had an employee that quit, your car breaks down, you can't get into work. How are you going to respond? And if that's not familiar to you, if you're not trained to know how to react during those difficult times, what I call an ambush or a
Mhm.
potential threat, you're going to cave. You're not going
Yeah.
to know how to respond. But during that day, it was so cool, like looking back and be like, man, all that training that we did, everything that we did on those hikes that we did, everything that we did from the physical fitness, from learning how to use comms, to learn how to respond with all the chain of command, and learning how to react with them, and knowing who
Mhm.
did what when,
Yeah.
prepared us for that one moment. We
Yeah.
don't know when that moment's going to come, but we will get ambushed in our life one time or another. And the question is, are you going to be prepared when that ambush comes? And that's how I really relate that to it, is understanding the systems and processes that it takes, so that way when you do get ambushed, you are prepared.
I love that, man. And that's what it is. We got to remember that professionals train and practice more than they play, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what that was. That was years of training and practice, mock situations, because they knew that a real situation would happen and you guys needed to respond without thinking. Can you respond without thinking in your business? Can you disconnect the emotion like JR talked about earlier and function in the way that you are? Mark, I keep calling you Mark because Mark Presswood is watching. That's one of my good buddies. JR, we're at the second favorite part of my show, right? And that's what we call freestyle. Because I know you got bars, bro. I know you were spitting bars back in South County at Lindbergh in the hall. No, freestyle is not about that. A freestyle for us is I'm building this multi-billion-dollar international media conglomerate that will one day surpass Ted Turner and Walt Disney. I realize that I don't always ask the right questions, and the conversation doesn't always evolve where we want it to go. So freestyle is your opportunity to talk about, reiterate something that we covered that you feel is important, or to talk about something that we have not gotten to that you feel is important that you need to say before we get off the stream today. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the JR Spear version. Hit them with your best bars, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could talk about a million different things right now, but I'm going to hit on one main thing that people need to walk away and learn is, first off, in the military, we do things simple to make us remember small or simple things. And we do so through acronyms. And my company name is called Creed Consulting. It stands for commitment, resilience, excellence, execution, and discipline. And for your listeners that are going here, I want to ask them one thing. What is your creed? Meaning, what is the one thing that you're most committed to? They're going to be resilient to push through, even through the most difficult times. You're going to show up every single day, giving your best and having the emotional and physical discipline to complete your mission. So what is your creed?
Uh-oh. Hit us with that creed one more time. It looks like we jumped off mine real quick.
Yeah, so CREED stands for, it's an acronym that I created. It's my ethos, it's my core values. It stands for commitment, resilience, excellence, execution, and discipline. But the question I like to ask is, what is the one thing that you're most committed to? That you're going to be resilient even through the most difficult times. You're going to show up every single day, giving your best and having the emotional and physical discipline to complete your mission. So what is your creed?
I love that, man. Drop the mic. That's it. That is freestyle, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the JR Spear version. This has been wonder-filled for me, JR, and I know you have steps to success as well to help entrepreneurs. We got about 8 minutes. Can you run down some of those steps to help entrepreneurs understand what it really takes to be successful? We know that you got to have a why. We know you got to have a purpose, something that's going to move you beyond money and that's going to anchor you and those sorts of things. But there are some everyday things that people need to wrap their minds around when it comes to being successful in business, particularly, but also in any area of your life, climbing the corporate ladder, if that's your thing, in your relationships. What are some of the steps to success that we should be focused on and committed to?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And I've been an entrepreneur since pretty much since 2007 and built 4 businesses during that time. And it wasn't until last year when I created this STEPS program for my clients and what I teach on, what I talk about on a regular basis. And it was evaluating all the businesses that I do that can lead others towards the success and the life that they desire. And one thing that people need to understand is they need to get rid of that golden carrot that's standing in front of them and think like, man, I just want to have success. I want to immediately start scaling. I want to immediately start growing, because you have to earn the right to scale. You have to earn the right to be able to grow a business. And you got to do the foundational pieces first. That's going to lead you to scalability. So STEPS is another acronym that I created, and it stands for structure, technology, efficiencies, and process. And when you implement those different things in place, then you got permission to lead you to scalability. Now let's go back to the first piece, because anyone listening in here, if you are just starting out business or you've been in business for 5 or 10 years and you're struggling, be like, man, how do I get this to the next level? Go back to the foundations, which is the first part, which is structure. And there's 5 key foundations that every single person needs to go through. Every time I create a new offer, new program, new business, whatever it may be, I always go through these. And you can call it almost like a business plan, or you can just call it a simplicity for structuring the foundation of your business. And the first piece when it comes to structure is understanding your mission. Within your mission, there's 3 different elements. There's your purpose, your identity, but also your destination. Got to know your purpose. You got to know who you are and what you want to be remembered by, which is your identity. And then your destination is understanding your vision, but also knowing the community and culture that you want to build. That's the first piece of your structure, your foundation. The second thing is understanding your perfect client. And I say perfect client, but you need to ask yourself, is this person for me? FOR. And that stands for family, occupation, recreation. From a marketing standpoint, it's going to be really hard to go out there and knowing where to put your marketing efforts to be able to generate the new revenue, new clients, and the people into your world if you don't even know who you want to even go after. So remember that family part. What is their family history? Who are they? They're married, they're single, they're divorced, they have pets, dogs, where do they live? Those different types of things. The occupation, what type of income, financial level are they in? What type of work are they in? Are they the right person for you? So if you're helping small business owners, are you going to go after someone that makes $1 million? Can you serve them at that capacity? What is that? Recreation. One of the most important pieces when it comes to marketing is understanding their hobbies, their likes, their dislikes. Because when you can go out there and understanding, like, hey, you know what? I want to find people who are in the health space that value health, that are trying to lose weight, that want to be strong, that want to get in triathlons, whatever it may be. Then you can go out and find them on social media, online, wherever, in person, different groups, different communities, society, whatever it may be. But you got to understand, is this client for me? That's your perfect client. The next thing is your messaging, because a confused mind is never going to buy. So the second piece, or the third piece of your foundation, is your big promise statement. So if you've been an entrepreneur for any period of time, we used to call this almost like your elevator pitch, where you got less than 30 seconds to tell someone exactly who you are, what you do, what you have to offer. So that way they want to be able to ask you for more information. And it's the time from you get on the elevator till you get to the floor to be able to convey that message. Well, we live in a digital space and online, and you don't have 30 seconds to do so. You might even have an opportunity to speak, but you're speaking is through the text that you have on your page for them to be able to see what you're about. So you got this, you have this section on every social media site, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, doesn't matter what it is, to be able to say who you are, what you do, what you have to offer, to hook someone's in, to grab their attention, to be able to want to learn more about you. And if that message is confusing, they're never going to learn. They're going to scroll through, move on, find someone else that can help and serve them. So that has to be really clear. And I say it has to be 15 words or less. And here's a good framework that they can start with. I help who get desire. That desire is the results that you help them with. Don't give your resume that you're going to do, if you're a fitness coach, well, you're going to be like, hey, through exercise and nutrition, that's great. Those are the deliverables that you're going to do to help them lead them to what? To lose 30 pounds, 20 pounds, to get six-pack abs. What is that? What is that desire that your clients want? So I help, or I inspire, or I empower who get desire. The next piece, which is your big seven. Your big seven is something I created, which is the 7 biggest problems that your perfect clients have. As an entrepreneur, we need to understand the problems that we're solving. And when you can become a problem solver, you're going to attract better quality people, because now you're on a mission to make a difference versus just going out there, just trying to sell a product. I mean, we can all go out there and try to sell a pen every single day. And the person that has a purpose behind that pen and the problem they're solving is probably going to sell more than the person that's just trying to sell that pen. And the reason why I say 7 is because, just like you, when you're consistent on your show right now, 5, 6, 7 days a week, whatever it may be, I created a big 7 because I believe that we need to be consistent 7 days a week with our messaging and serving and making a difference to helping others. So that's what I call a big 7. So what are the 7 biggest problems that your perfect clients have? And when you understand that, you're going to create your resources, your content, your training, your podcast, your videos, your presentation, your events. Everything needs to be consistent around those problems, because you are identifying them as hitting the heart of who your perfect client is. And when you can do that, it's going to be a lot easier to hook them in. And the last piece of your foundation is your irresistible offer. When it comes to creating your offer and what you're selling, remember that the value needs to be 10 times greater than the price you sell it for. I'll say that again. The value needs to be 10 times greater than the price you sell it for. And I'll use an example of like an iPhone and Tony Robbins. Majority of your audience probably knows who Tony Robbins is in some way or fashion. Tony Robbins probably owns a cell phone. His cell phone probably cost him $1,000, but the value of that phone is worth millions. Why? Because of what's inside of it. Same thing with your products and services for what you have to do. What you have to offer is so much greater than just what you're telling them. It's the knowledge, it's the experience, it's the things that's going to lead them to the desire and the big promise that you gave. And you need to make sure that you understand your worth and convey that and put a value to that. So the value that you give for your offer needs to be 10 times greater than the price you sell it for. And this is the biggest question that everyone always asks me. How do I know what to sell? First off, you got to create the value for that. So if you say your price, the value of your offer is $100,000, well, you know, a good baseline that you could sell it for is $10,000. Take the bit divided by that, you do that. But then once you get that baseline, then you have to look at the market. So are people in the similar space in your competition are selling it for this price? And if they are, then you know you got a good price. Go out there, sell what you're worth, and make a difference.
Love it, love it, love it. Ladies and gentlemen, did I or did I not tell y'all that we had a wonder-filled show lined up for you today? JR, that was flat out amazing and definitely worth the wait. And I know people always, Cortez, you spend so much time on the backstory because that's important. Now you can understand how he was able to communicate that with such conviction, right? With such emotion, because he's living out his creed based on the backstory that he gave us in his upbringing. So you got to understand how all of that fits together. So hit him up, jrsphere.com. Facebook is primary platform. Thank you so much for giving us up your time. Thank you for being vulnerable with us, sharing that deep story about how J.R. Spear has become the man that he is today. So that's going to do it for us today. Till we talk to you guys next time, I want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. So hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.